Hey, everybody. Welcome to Vision Tech Perspectives. This is Dave Swain with Vision Technology Management and Doug Johnson. How you doing today?
Hey, Dave, I'm doing well.
Let's have a conversation about who Doug Johnson is. And if you would, kind of give us your background and then we'll go from there.
Dave, I love this. And you and I have been talking about this for a while.
You and I have talked, well, how did we meet? Let's kind of go there. Let talk about Prequel. How did we come to know each other?
Dave,
I guess an interesting kind of story to get us there.
so what did I do? This is going to lead all up into this. Uh, it's been a great career. I'm not going to lie. Phenomenal career for better career than I deserve, probably. Number one, what did I do? I would go around literally North America and I would talk at conferences, banking conferences, farmer rancher conferences, and I would talk about here are ag headwinds and disruptors that we need to be watching and thinking about. I'm in a conservative camp. I'm more nervous than I am an advocate for it. Lab raised meat. How do we tell our story? I've been in Congress twice, and I've talked about what we need to be thinking and doing, not Farm Bill, because I know people are laser focused on the Farm Bill. Folks, 2.5 years ago, Congress had no clue about lab raised meat. There was zero care, zero effort. They
Mhm.
heard of it. And when I got done, I had comments like, why are you the only one that we have heard from advocating for the farmer? We have heard from companies promoting lab raised meat, what it will do, but
Mhm.
we have not heard your side of the story on what it could maybe not do and how it could impact our ag economy.
Their version of the period, not the comma.
100%. That was 2.5 years ago. And let me tell you, I walked out of there and I told our company, I said, I don't ever want to step foot in DC again. That was the most disheartening thing. So, what happened a year later? I was called back. And they said, well, you're coming back in and you're going to give an update on lab raised meat. That was the thing then. Lab
Hmm.
raised meat. Dave, I'll never give government a lot of credit because they over government, right? But on the flip side, I've never seen more astute learners than when I went
Yeah.
back a year later. These staffers, Dave, I learned so much. Staffers run the place.
Oh yeah.
Staffers, you should have heard they were up to speed on lab raised meat. There were bills now, and I'm not saying this because of me, but it was a piece of the voice that I shared, and we all got to say it together. There were bills now, Florida, Nebraska, Texas, all these different, many states have said it is illegal to grow lab raised meat, it's illegal to
Mhm.
sell lab raised meat, or if lab raised meat becomes a thing in our state, it has to be appropriate labeled. A year, 1 year made that much difference.
Yep.
And I was shocked. So, in my career, what did I do? That was, some people would say the highlight of your career would be going to Congress twice and promoting farmers and ranchers. That was not my highlight. I've been across North America. My highlight is when I get invited to speak at farmer and rancher conference. You know where my favorite, there's two favorite conferences. They both happen to be farmer meetings. One of them I was invited and it was through a university. I drove on the farmer's farm. It was a remodeled dairy barn,
Yeah.
and they had it full of farmers. And I drove in, quintessential. Here's this big farmhouse. I drove up to the house. The dog comes out to greet me, barking. The wife comes out on the front porch and said, drive down to the dairy barn there, and that's where you're going to speak. Drove down there. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Circle, Montana, northeast corner of Montana, a couple hundred people.
Okay.
They had me come up and speak to farmers, and they put me up at a ranch house. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. 4 miles outside of town. But literally, the banker said, if you can make it a day early, I'm going to put you in the tractor with my husband. You're going to go feed cows. Well, it ended up, he said, okay, here, you go feed these mama cows, and I'm going to feed these mama cows. I said, you trust me? with your equipment? He said, get in there and get the job done. Let's go. And I am telling, it was one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah.
And we were driving down the country road down, and all of a sudden there's a 120-pound dog. And he says, oh, that's a stray dog. What's he do? Any good rancher stops a pickup and says, get out. The dog hops in the front seat, and I hop in. I said, do you know this dog? He said, oh, I think so. I think it's one of our neighbors. I'm like, this is a big dog that could be really hungry. Are you sure we're not going to get eaten in here? He said, no, I know the dog. I'm just jazzing you. But it's those events that I would argue, when I talk about ag headwinds disruptors to producer meetings, to banker meetings, oh my gosh, you never know where that next journey is going to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and what I have done is promoting our voice the best I know how. I'm
Hmm.
not saying I'm great at it, but the promoting our voice, and you get people thinking. There's been students that have gone home and wrote term papers on what farmers and ranchers do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not ready to hang this up yet. We got to keep pushing. That's why I appreciate being on these podcasts. What's next?
Yep.
Where do we take this next?
Exactly. Exactly. So how did you and I meet? Let's tell that story because I want to go into not just how we met and everything and what you were doing, but also this kind of leads into how this podcast actually got started,
Oh, it's
which I still find is a comical story.
so Dave, you know that TV show Shark Tank,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So it's where you stand up, you have this idea, you stand up in front of all these investors. In my world, this company that I work for did a Shark Tank internally, global 16,000 employees, submit an idea, stand up, pitch your idea to executives. There is one winning idea globally, one.
Hmm.
You pitch your idea, and that idea is going to get funded and built. So my manager at the time said, submit an idea for agriculture. What do you think would help farmers, ranchers, what's going to help rural America? And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Ag is too, and I said, ag
Yep.
is too little of a drop in the bucket for this global organization. And he said, no, I think you should do it. I went home, I thought about it. I submitted an idea. I had to stand up, like I said, pitch the idea multiple rounds. I had
Hmm.
to pitch the idea to peers, coworkers,
Okay.
and then you work through the ranks, and it kept growing popularity, getting more and more. And then I was selected for one of 20 to pitch the idea to the final executive.
Hmm.
Dave, I had executives say that was an incredible presentation, but our focus is not in agriculture. You will not win this competition. They
Hmm.
called me after I did my pitch. And all of a sudden, the voting came out. The executives, they said, Doug, you won. And this executive that called and said, there's no chance you're going to win. Our focus is not ag. They called me back and said, you have no idea how this is going to change your life. And it did. What my idea
Hmm.
was, very simple. Every farmer, and we all know this, everybody should know their break evens. We all talk about this, we know it. And Dave, the reason we don't know break evens at a field level, most marketing plans ask 50 questions. It's too difficult and it
Yeah.
takes too much time. And I'm busy feeding cattle, driving tractor, and now you want me to sit down and fill out 50 questions on every field and keep it updated? Ridiculous. Not going to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So we don't do it. So what my concept was, I think very simple. I need to boil down a marketing plan to 5 questions. I want every farmer to know their break even, whether it's perfect. No, I don't care about perfection. I want directional correctness. So this is what I did. I asked, how many acres is your field? What's your projected yield? What's your projected cost? What is your target sales price? That's going to give me a break even.
Hmm. Hmm.
I put that into a software, and believe it or not, the company I work for, Fortune 500 company, has been around for 100 since 1909. My team that they gave me of developers
Uh-huh.
was 12 people total. We could squish in a van. We built the very first cell phone app for this tool in the company's history. And this is a global organization. And Dave, what I did, I needed to understand commodity prices so we could say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we want to sell corn at 550 and we're at 385 today.
Yep.
You're missing an opportunity. How are you going to break even? So this is how Dave, you and I met. We don't have ties to commodities and weather and all that. You did at your former company.
Yes.
So I reached out to you and said, I have this idea. I won this global contest. Now we need to put it together, but we have to focus on simplicity. Our farmers and ranchers are busy
Yep.
and they need a tool that is a 5-second tool or less to give directional ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, we've got this. You provided us, if you remember, weather,
Mm-hmm.
commodity price, and
Yep.
ag news.
Yep.
I had another company provide satellite imagery at a field level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was it perfect? No, it
No.
got yards, not feet. But the farmer could literally log into this tool on their phone and in 5 minutes have a field, 5 minutes, 5 questions. They could have a field level marketing plan done. And then we triggered alerts because of your company.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they could trigger alerts and it would tell the farmer, oh no, you want this for your price? You're not going to get it. Oh no, you want this for your yield? You got a problem on this corner of the field.
Yep.
You could make a change and it would calculate a new break even at the field. And folks, it would bring in a projected cash flow that your lenders want to see. So, where I didn't have enough faith in myself that I should pursue this global Shark Tank opportunity, my manager did.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, I can be a little stubborn. I don't like to hear outside input very often, but we need to listen to outside input and we need to say, how do we tell our story? And that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
And I really do remember when you and I first talked. Why don't farmers know their break evens? They're busy, it's too complicated for most, they don't have
Mm-hmm.
time. And I said, here's what I want to build. And you and I would call you and say, here's a thought. What do you think? And I called farmers, remember? I
Yep.
reached interviewed gobs of farmers and academia,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
ag lenders. So my goal was never develop this in a bubble with my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
In who it's going to impact, and let's build a network to build a tool for them that's built by them. And the
Mm-hmm.
CEO of the global organization, Fortune 500, called me 5 times. And he said, number one, congrats. Number two, tell me what you're building for farmers. Tell me your why. I want to know why
Yep.
we're doing this.
Yep.
He was so impressed. I said, I'm not building this in a vacuum. I'm reaching out, farmers, ranchers, bankers, academia, Daves of the world. And he said, this is going to be our new way of development forward. Too often, our company develops software in a vacuum. This was his words. And when we launch it to the public, it gets a soft reception because we thought we knew what they wanted. He said, Doug, what you are building is the voice of the industry,
Mm-hmm.
what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
New York City, walking down the street, and he happened to be walking down the street, leaving the office. He looked at me and I looked at him. Of course, I know him, CEO.
Sure.
He stopped me and he said, Doug Johnson from Omaha, how is your tool going? And I'm not kidding you. And the managers that were around me said, that is unbelievable that you have that visibility. He promoted agriculture, not
Mm-hmm.
just the global head of sales, the CEO promoted agriculture, 16,000 people globally. See,
Yeah.
Dave, you never know. One little comment or thought or step who you can influence.
Well, and I think that plays. a big role in all of us.
Yes.
We impact people and don't even realize it. We have conversations and make comments and don't realize it. And that's why we have to be very intentional about how we do things. Um, I'm going to jump in here because so now we know each other. We get the tool up and running. And then I tell you that I'm leaving my former employer to start my
Yep.
own business. And to say that you weren't happy would be an understatement.
Yep.
But you were also like, okay, anything I can do to help you. In fact, we do a quarterly podcast. I'd love to have you on here, get you out there. You'll be posted on our website. We'll get you some exposure here. And I heard a lot of that from a lot of people that I knew, that anything I can do to help you, you just let me know. I'm there for you. And then when I went to ask, they were gone.
Yep.
But within an hour after you and I had that phone conversation, I had the outline of the podcast and I was like, oh crap, you're serious.
Yep.
Now, I I've been honest with you before this conversation. I kept in contact also knowing that you wanted that outside voice and I wanted to contract with you to help you with that project.
Yep.
But, you know, I have bills to pay too. And but as we're talking, okay, where are we on the podcast? And finally you were like, Dave, we're cutting back. They're not letting me do podcasts anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, we tried. That's all right. And you said, but I have an idea. Why don't you do a podcast and you invite me on your podcast and we can have this conversation? We'll still get you exposure out there. About That's been about 2 years ago, not quite now.
Yep.
And here we are, we're still doing it. So for those listeners, here's the comical side of things. This one conversation turned into how many episodes have we done so far? And a year and a half later, we're still doing this. And part of it is, we enjoy just having these conversations anyway.
Yep.
So that's part of it, is it's fun. But it is to the point, what you've really been focused on is, where's our voice?
Yeah.
And how can we advocate for our industry? And it's not just, I mean, we do have a lot of passion for the production level farmers, ranchers, herdsmen, but it is all of agriculture. I
Yes.
deal in the technology side of the business, so I deal with the agribusiness side of things as well, as you do as too. But we have this passion and we want to give our voice an opportunity to be heard,
Yep.
because it's a voice that we want to make sure is heard from our industry. And so it's really been a lot of fun. I tell that story because people are like, you're doing a podcast? I'm like, yeah, it's a long story, and because it's funny, because, one conversation has turned into a series,
Yes.
that we post regularly, that we have an actual name for the podcast. It's not just us having a conversation.
If one person hears it, you don't know who that one person is going to tell the next. You don't know the influence. And it's not about us, it's about our voice. And how can we help? You're busy feeding cattle, driving tractor.
Yeah.
How do we help rural America? How do we help preserve that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the podcasts like this, hopefully people don't listen and say, well, the Doug and Dave are talking, about themselves. We're not. We're talking about our role and our why
Hmm.
and what our parents talked about. So if you're mom or dad, grandpa and grandma, I can't emphasize enough, grandpa and grandma, tell your story to grandson, granddaughter.
Yes.
Tell what life was like, tell what farming was like, tell what you learned, tell what others did that didn't work,
Hmm.
that you said, I'm not going to go down that path. Sure, they farm different. You might have farmed with horses, and now we're
Yep.
farming with the button.
Yep.
Not the buttons or levers that are important, it's your decision making and your observations that are important. And that's what we need to share our stories. I have regrets. How come I didn't ask dad more questions? I have regrets. How come I didn't sit down with my grandpa and say, what was my great grandpa like? Farm
Mm-hmm.
horses. I don't know those stories, Dave. I know
Mm-hmm.
what I know, but I don't know what I want to know. Don't
Exactly.
give up the opportunity if you still have that opportunity.
Well, and we didn't ask those questions because we didn't think those were questions that we wanted to know about.
Didn't
And we
care.
didn't understand what we didn't know. And I tried to do that with my kids, to have conversations about with their grandparents. And it was cool when both of them passed, the things that were important to my kids wasn't um well, they gave me this thing at Christmas or whatever. It was, when we went to visit, my mom and dad sat down with them and the formal dining room table and
Oh,
had tea with the silver set. It was a big deal. It
yep.
was a huge deal for them. And it was the time that they spent with their grandparents and the things that meant a lot to them, not just the things.
Yeah, right on. Yep.
And I think those are the things that the other thing that we have to pass along is, understand it's not about, you know, stroking a check for a kid's birthday. It's the time that they spend and the experience they got to have.
Dave, that just triggered a thought here. I just wrote this down quick. We are what I would call a consumable society. We
Yes.
like to buy things, not everybody, but we like to buy things and things make us happy, right?
Yep.
Where I think we all need to do maybe a little more is the
Hmm.
emotional heritage.
Yes.
Tell our story. Tell our story to our family first. Tell our story in our rural America. And then as you go out to eat, it's like, well, how do I tell my story? I do a whole educational series on this. What are the steps you need to do to help tell your story? It's super easy. It's easier than you think. I live in
Hmm.
rural America. I'm on a farm. Who am I going to tell? Who am I going to influence? You go out of the lane, you could talk to somebody that talks to somebody.
Well, you were talking when we first started, and our society is removed from agriculture. And the sad thing about it is, more times than not, the interaction with agriculture. I live in rural America as well, but I'm close to a city that's not huge. It's not a big metropolis or anything, but it's a good sized city. And even in those farming communities, the people that are non-ag are like, the only thing that farmers are a pain in the spring and in the fall because the equipment's in the way and I can't get where I need to go. I have to follow behind that slow piece of equipment and it's dangerous. And why should they be able to do that type of mentality?
Yep.
And they don't understand that it's a job and it's where their food comes from. What parting wisdom do you have as we wrap this up?
So I've been thinking about this, Dave, when you asked, should we do this? And I wanted to make sure it's not about us, it's about our why, because everybody is going to have the same why.
Hmm.
So, what I would ask listeners, whether if you're not from the farm, find somebody that has a farm background and ask some questions. Okay.
Hmm.
Get the real story. Don't go on YouTube. Don't go on Facebook. That's all. Some is true, some is false. So just go right to the source. Learn about the farm. And if you're on a farm or ranch, step one, it's critical to think about who you are. You're busy, you're feeding cattle. Think about who you are, where you came from, what you're trying to accomplish. How do you share your heritage with the next generation so they can share their heritage. And what we used to believe, Dad always said, hard work is more important than words. Don't tell me, show me.
Mm-hmm.
In agriculture, we all know this. We're very humble in our nature, and hard work will say its deeds, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're it's different today.
Yeah.
We have social media. We need to promote our voice very humbly
Mm-hmm.
to continue with our work ethic, but we need to educate. We need to educate on our why.
Yep.
What are we doing in agriculture that is so important for non-ag?
Mm-hmm.
There are groups that do that very well,
Mm-hmm.
but we know there's not enough groups that are doing it. So I would ask all of you first, share your story with your family. Everybody should sit down, grandpa and grandma, mom, dad, make it fun,
Yeah.
right? And tell your story. Yes, maybe there's cows out, get them in, but sit down at supper together and talk. Don't get on social media. Put the phones in a box
Mm-hmm.
and then figure out where you can find an opportunity. Maybe you go to school. Maybe you have school come out to your farm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you go into the classroom
Yes.
and share. I'm a farmer. I'm a
Yes.
rancher. This is what I do. You would be surprised how many school kids in rural America don't know what farmers and ranchers do. I'm shocked. Dave, it's impossible. They don't know, but they don't know.
Oh no, they don't.
Share your time, share your story. I think
It.
that's what I would ask to help preserve our rural America, our heritage.
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Doug, thank you. What a story. What a story. It's fun to see how career paths develop.
Yeah.
And they do develop from where you have aspirations in one direction and you have a plan, and then all of a sudden, God has a different plan for you. Then all of a sudden you're doing something else, and in a way that you've never imagined.
Yep.
you know, if you would have asked me, I mean, granted, when we were in school and had aspirations, the internet hadn't even come about yet, let alone doing a podcast. But here we are doing a podcast, and who'd have
Yep.
thought it? Who'd have
Yep.
thought it? So appreciate your story. Appreciate the time that you've given to this, because it is a time commitment, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so any final thoughts, or as we wrap this up?
Keep doing what you're doing because you literally are the backbone of our society. You pull out rural America farmers, ranchers, we're not a free society anymore.
Mhm.
Continue the journey forward.
Thank you. Appreciate it. To our listeners, appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to us, and we'll wrap this up and look forward to talking with you next time. Have a great day.